Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Get on the Bus, Social Networking. My name is Jamie Marcus. I'm the Continuing Education Coordinator at the Wyoming State Library, and I'm coordinating this program. Today, we're going to be talking about social networking with Cass from the University of Wyoming Libraries. If this is your first Get on the Bus program, welcome. If it's your fifth Get on the Bus program, welcome back. Just a reminder that everything we go over today will be on the website, which is located at getonthebuswyoming.wordpress.com. You can also reach any of your presenters from today's program or from previous programs by sending email to getonthebus@will.state.wy.us. A couple of reminders before I hand it off to Cass. The first is, if you participated last week in social tagging, your homework is due this Friday if you'd like to win a prize. If you are going to do the homework for social networking, your homework is due Friday the 13th to win a prize. If you do all of the homework for all of the sections for Get on the Bus, you will be eligible to win an iPod Touch or registration at the 2009 Wyoming Library Association Conference in Laramie, October 1st through 3rd this year. And to be eligible to that, you can do your homework anytime, but all your homework must be done by the end of March, the end of this month. If you're a teacher and you want PTSB credit for finishing this course, please let me know, Jamie Marcus at the State Library. Information on how to do that is in the Introduction tab on the website. Again, if you have any questions, just email getonthebus@will.state.wy.us. And also, this is the first time that we've done some sort of a blended learning course here statewide. And we're always looking for suggestions on other topics that we could do this on, this or a differently formatted program. So if you have any suggestions for future topics or future programs, please let me know. And also I want to announce our prize winners for blogs. They were Laura Jackson from the American Heritage Center, Lisa Wetmore from the Du Bois Branch Library, and Terry Poleska, who's a library media specialist in Sweetwater County. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute, and then we're going to let Cass take it away.
All conference participants are now muted. To unmute your participants, press 9-9.
Thanks, Jamie. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm going to pop into our Get on the Bus website here and do a quick introduction. We're going to cover a lot of really fun tools today, and so as we go through them, if you have questions that you are worried you'll forget by the end of the session, you can go ahead and send those to Jamie via Yugma, or you can just make a note. But I'm happy to answer all your questions at the end, and I'm sure I'll forget something, and there'll be pressing concerns. We'll address them. Another quick thing, we're going to look at some cool tools today and some really exciting things that librarians are doing with social networking tools. And I just want to give a caveat before we start that your homework is not going to involve creating your own YouTube video with full production values and a cast of thousands. The homework will be more fun, exploring, brainstorming, checking out what libraries are doing online. So as we're looking at these social networks, I don't want anybody to be having an inward panic attack thinking about the homework and how they're going to do it. I also know that some of our school librarians may or may not be able to access all of these tools. So for your homework, you might need to use a computer at home or a computer in a public library or someplace with a little less restricted access, because some of these social networking sites are so fun and so popular that schools have locked them down quite a bit. So that might be the case for some of you. I've got a brief introduction here on the page for myself, and I won't tell too much about myself, but I am the distance learning librarian at UW, which means that I serve all of our students and faculty who are off campus, and that's about 3,000 students here. So I spend a lot of my time online trying to figure out where students are hanging out and how they're using online sites to learn and how the library can really help them there. So that kind of explains my interest in social networks. But I also use these tools for personal use too, as I'm sure some of you all have. We're going to look at Facebook and Myspace, and I'm guessing most of you have seen those before. Let's go ahead and start with the definition. I'm usually not one of those Webster's Dictionary defines social networking as people, but in this case it's a good idea because the definition is so broad that I think it helps come up with good ideas about how a library could fit in these social networks. So a social network is basically an online place where a user creates a profile and builds a personal network that connects him or her to other users. That's really broad. And Dana Boyd, who is a writer on social networks and who has thought a lot about how they connect with libraries, points out that there are 3 key characteristics that make an online site a social network. It has to have a public profile when you're a user. You have to have a list of friends and a way to publicly comment. And so that's a good way to think about how you're interacting with your library patrons through these tools. There's a little more give and take than just a static website. All of you who set up your blogs are familiar with commenting, and we're going to look at what that looks like on some of these sites too. Today we're just looking at a selection of social networking sites, but I do have a link on the website to the top 20 social sites, and this was compiled, I think, a week or 2 ago. It's very current. So if there are sites that you've heard about that we're not talking about today, that's a good way to go explore and learn more about them, because there's a ton. And I would say probably every month, at least 50 new social networking sites start, and probably 50 go out of business. It's a hot commodity right now, so the list changes all the time. And in fact, the first one I'm going to mention briefly is Myspace, which is possibly on the downslide for a lot of social networking applications. But there are still some ways that libraries are using Myspace in exciting ways. Teenagers are still on Myspace, and music fans are still on Myspace. And I'm going to briefly show you the Denver Public Library Myspace account. This is for their teens. It's coming from their YA department. They have lists of their top teen books. They tell about events. But they also partner with local musicians in Denver to put new songs by local artists on their Myspace page. So right now there's a song by the Flowbots, who are down in Denver, and if you're a Flowbots fan, this is a way to get their new song, or add it to your own Myspace profile. It also promotes that the library buys music by local artists, and you can check out music at the library. So they're kind of appealing to a very specific sort of user, a very specific sort of patron who loves music, who's on Myspace listening to music, who might want to check music out at the library. They've also got some other stuff going on here. You can see what's on their bookshelf. You can see their Twitter feed. We're not going to talk about Twitter in depth today. I think Laura mentioned it as a form of microblogging, and it seems like everyone's talking about it. I don't know if you saw The Daily Show last night. They had a pretty funny bit on Twitter. But we're not going to talk in depth, but that's another form of getting out there and talking to your patrons. I'm still not certain exactly what the library has to say to patrons in 140 characters or less all day, but I'm probably just not using my imagination enough. They've got a link to their Flickr account, and again, they've designed this for teens, so it is a little bit bonkers. To my eye, the design is crazy. They've got pets and CQ researcher, and they have a list of 902 friends on MySpace, so clearly this is a popular service. People are logging in. And those friends have offered comments like, oh, the book reading last night was really cool, or, hey, where do I go to find this book? Some of them are kind of spammy comments where somebody will insert a picture of a cute bunny. And I don't know if the Denver Public Library is excited about the bunny or not. But so the MySpace comments can be a little on the immature side at times. But that's the audience they're obviously going for here. So that's all I want to say about MySpace, because all of the MySpace users in the world are flocking to Facebook. Facebook is a service that connects people within networks, and because of the way it's designed, if you want to play with Facebook, you will need to sign up for a free account. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see all of the different sites. You're not going to be able to see what libraries are doing. You're not going to be able to see friends or profiles. Some people have public profiles, but I would say generally it's not going to be a very facile experience unless you're signed up with an account. So we're signed in with my account here, and I'm on the co-library page because that's one that I can see. It's in my network, and I'm an administrator of it. I'm not just trying to publicize our Facebook account. We have our hours on here, some basic information. We have fans. We have added an instant messaging widget here so that if our students are in Facebook and they need to ask a librarian a question, they don't need to walk to the library or call us or navigate out of Facebook to the library's webpage. They can do it right here. We've got some tools from OCLC that we've inserted into the page that allow people to make citations or to search WorldCat. And we have a JSTOR search as well. I'm going to scroll down. I hope it doesn't make anyone sick. And you can also see that we're feeding our blog feed into Facebook. And I know we're going to talk more about RSS next week, so I don't want to get too in-depth on how that works. But what I do want to highlight is that all of the tools we're looking at today play nicely with each other. So they're free, they connect you with patrons, they open you up for those public comments, and they can interconnect. So I can pull my blog feed into my Facebook account. Now I'm getting double bang for no buck, right? That's all free. If you have questions after you have become comfortable with Facebook and you've started playing with it, you've maybe set up an account, I am happy to talk to you about how to insert these widgets, like WorldCat search or instant messaging. And Kaisa here at UW is also skilled at that. So if you have questions afterwards, feel free to email the Get on the Bus list or email us directly, and we can help you with that. You need a little bit of basic Facebook skill and a little bit of willingness to experiment in order to get these to work. I'm going to scroll back up. We also have photos, which is kind of fun. One reason a library might want to have a Facebook page like this is that it gives you a way to communicate with your patrons directly. I can send an update to the fans of our library at no fee, and it's directed to people whom I already know like the library, who already want to receive information from us. I can also promote the page with an advertisement, and we've tried this at UW. We do an event called Finals Freakout every semester when students are studying for finals, and we provide free coffee and cocoa and cookies late at night. And this year we tried experimenting with using Facebook advertising for that because it's cheap. And so we thought, why not? Our marketing director did a survey of people attending the event, and quite a few more of them had seen it on Facebook than had seen it in the traditional print newspaper here on campus. And the print ad cost, I think, 3 or 4 times as much as the Facebook ad. So we're going to drop that next time. Nobody was reading the print ad, but people did see it on Facebook. Facebook tries to direct ads. It's pretty sure that I like the Real Housewives of New York and Lily Allen. That's not totally accurate, but it's probably not too far off either. So those library advertisements would go to a directed population. And I think our marketing coordinator decided to send them to students at the University of Wyoming with a Laramie address so that she wasn't hitting those distance students who wouldn't be able to come in for cookies. So that's important to think about if you're looking at your marketing plan or you're having difficulty reaching all of your patron groups. Facebook can kind of help you do that. I'm going to show you another example of how you might want to use Facebook for your library. If you don't want to maintain a permanent presence, you can use it for a one-time event. This is an art opening at the Regis University Library in Denver, and they promoted it on Facebook. Again, this allows some of that marketing to happen by word of mouth in a way that doesn't cost $1 billion in radio or newspaper advertising. People who are attending the event can share it with each other, and they also can RSVP. So you immediately get an idea of how many people saw it on Facebook and how many people are planning to attend based on that. If I was going to this event and I clicked, yes, I'm attending, it would show up in my news feed that gets pushed out to all of my Facebook friends, and then they would say, oh, Cass is going to that art opening. I didn't hear about that. I wonder if it's cool. And they can click through and see it. So it kind of, that's where you start to get the real benefits of that social network, where people are sharing that information with each other. You can see what everybody's interested in, see what they're up to. So if your library gets passed around by a mover and a shaker, or your event is attended by somebody who is deemed cool by all his Facebook friends, then it's likely that a lot of people are going to hear about it. Those are some of the basics of Facebook. Let's go ahead and move on to one of my favorite tools, and I'm going to warn you with your homework, give yourself some time because it is so fun to look at these tools that you might find yourself up at midnight looking at pictures of your old boyfriend on Facebook, or friending all of your cousins that you haven't seen in 100 years, or maybe just looking at beautiful photographs on Flickr. Flickr, Flickr.com, is a photo hosting site, and it is a true social network. There are other photo hosting sites. I'm sure we all have friends who have babies or grandchildren, and they take their pictures into Walmart, and then they get them developed, and they also put them on a website, and they send you the link. That's not really a social network. That's just a way of sharing digital images. Flickr is a true social network because you can have a group of friends, and you can comment, and it's public. It's really easily searchable. So this is a library program, right? Let's see what the big boys are doing. Let's see what the Library of Congress has decided Flickr is all about. I think initially we need to ask, why is the Library of Congress on Flickr? They have big servers. They can host their own photos. They can keep them nice and clean and away from public comment right on their American Memory Project. But they've decided to put their photographs on Flickr and allow the public to participate. Let's look. I'm going to look at this suffrage pageant here. So one quick thing, you can see that there's a lot of bibliographic metadata. This is a Library of Congress thing. Most of the photographs that you look at on Flickr will not provide anything like this level of detail. But so in some ways they're showing their true stripes here. They're not full Flickr hoi polloi, but so don't expect to see that on every photograph. But what I think is interesting is how the public has interacted with this photo. There are 4 notes that have been added by other Flickr users to this photograph. And this user, Pixel Wrangler, said, oh, this is the Mineola Pharmacy, Rexall Drugs, on Main Street in this town. I don't know that anybody at the Library of Congress had any idea that was the Rexall Drugs in Mineola. If we scroll down, we can see some comments from other users. Here, a different user said this was taken in Mineola. I'd love to see more pictures from Long Island. And a third user says, the New York Times reported on this suffrage march in 1913, and here are the quotes from the paper about what was occurring in this photograph. Think of all the richness that has been added by this active community. One thing about Flickr is that the commenters and the users are not 14-year-old boys on Myspace. So you get some really high-quality input on Flickr, some really amazing comments. And I think that's one of the best reasons to put your library's images up, especially if you have collections that you don't know a ton about, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but is certainly the case sometimes. 13 people call this photo a favorite, so there are 13 people out there on Flickr that want to reminisce about Mineola in 1913, or maybe they want to do a project on suffrage. It's hard to know what they're up to, but they like this picture. The Library of Congress is also telling us that there's no known copyright restrictions on this photo. Those of you who work with students who do projects and papers and presentations, Flickr can be a really good place to get images that either are in the public domain, which I feel like the Library of Congress is trustworthy at assessing that, or that are licensed through Creative Commons and are open for educational uses and nonprofit uses. So always take a glance at this copyright restriction piece. It's a great way to help your patrons find images that they can use. Kaisa did a great job last week talking about tags. And of course, again, these are librarians, so they're doing a great job tagging their images. Most images on Flickr aren't going to have anything like this many tags. But what they've done here is increase the findability of this image exponentially. Flickr is swarmed by all the major search engines, and they have dumped all these tags in here, ensuring that their photographs are going to be seen. If these photographs were sitting in a database behind the American Memory Project, who knows how often they'd get pulled up. They're also really valuable, I think, for image collections, tagging, because we don't have a great way, historically, of tagging images. That hasn't been a strong point in libraries or even in corporations. So having this sort of data available for all these images is great. Finally, if you're a Flickr member, you can do some things with this picture. I can make it my favorite. I can add a note. I don't know anything about suffrage in Mineola in the 1900s, so I don't think I have anything to contribute. Again, we're seeing how these systems play nice together. You can blog it. You can set your Flickr up to send images directly to your blog, or you can grab it in different sizes and embed it on any web page. Cool, right? I like it when Flickr does the work for me. And you can order prints if you're using this for more grandparent purposes rather than research, I suppose. Let's look now at a library that's a little closer to home. Park County Library is using Flickr. I love these pictures. Senator Enzi is reading stories to children. This is a perfect time to use Flickr. It's good for Senator Enzi. He's going to be perfectly happy to have that out there. It's good for the library to say, look at what a great event we had. It's good for the grandparents again to say, look, there's my little Bobby with Senator Enzi. He's reading books. I think now is a good time to mention that you'll want to be in line with your library's privacy policy and photo policy. So bear that in mind. Every institution has different approaches. Here at UW, we get permission from people, but we are dealing with 19 and 20-year-olds, and they all want to see themselves on the internet. They don't think twice about it. They don't care if we put their picture on Flickr. But you might have different groups that are a little less accommodating. Another thing that you can do with Flickr, and Park County's done a good job with it here, is to create sets. And this is a way for people to just see all the photos of one event. I like this Pixie the sled dog. I kind of wish that my daughter could have gone to this one because it looks pretty exciting. So there's some detailed information here about what's going on, what you're looking at. And they also give you an option to make a slideshow. This is a one-click operation, and it takes 2 more clicks to embed it in a web page. Let's take a look at Pixie's visit. Flickr does a great job of formatting photographs for you and doing different things with them. Here at UW, we use the slideshow option on our 50th anniversary web page. We found a big folder of old photographs, scanned them in, and uploaded them to Flickr. And we had a slideshow going on our web page, and many people clicked through the slideshow to our Flickr account and made comments and said, oh, I remember this picture. This was taken in 1983, and this was the day that Gerald Ford visited campus. Or they tell a lot of information that not everybody in the building knew. We've kind of lost some of our institutional memories there. So I think that these tools that Flickr gives you are another great way to kind of let your patrons get in on your history and get in on what's happening. Okay, so that was Flickr, and there is a lot more to do with Flickr, and I have to stop myself because it's addictive, really, and you might have to do the same. But I'm going to point you now to our readings. The readings are optional and based on what you want to read, but I wanted to point out this Flickr Explore link will show you all of the cool stuff you can do with Flickr. It's endless. You can pick a Pantone color or an RGB color and find every photograph in Flickr that has primarily that color. Again, set time limits for yourself. You can look for wiener dogs in Halloween costumes, and I accidentally spent 45 minutes one day doing that, and then looked up at the clock and said, oh my gosh, I've been looking at wiener dogs in Halloween costumes for almost an hour. I can't believe it. So pay attention to your time, but the Flickr Explore is really cool thing. And there's also a tour of Flickr in the homework that will give you a better idea of some of the things you can build with Flickr. Also in the readings, we've got a nice post from Michael Stevens about 10 ways to use Flickr in your libraries to give you some more ideas of what libraries are doing. And I also included his tagged blog entries about YouTube to get some great ideas about how libraries are using YouTube. We're going to look at that next, but there is really a world of creativity out there. Just amazing. Some other readings I wanted to highlight, we've got the current status of Facebook and 10 privacy settings every Facebook user should know. I anticipate that's something that people are thinking about because Facebook privacy is really in the news right now, and their current privacy policy is still being debated. They set one and their users revolted, and now they've come back to the table and said they're going to work with Facebook users to create a privacy policy. But for those of you who are experimenting this week and setting up Facebook accounts, it's very easy to become friends with your boss and your husband's uncle and your high school boyfriend and your best friends that you make inappropriate jokes with all the time and that know everything about you. And so creating a boundary within Facebook of who sees what and how much everyone learns about you is a good thing to think about. And I would really recommend this reading, 10 Privacy Settings, if you are concerned about that. I probably should have read it a year ago. I think that ship has sailed for me, and now my boss and my uncle-in-law know everything. But I would urge you to take a look at that as well. I do also have some general readings from Dana Boyd that I mentioned earlier about the social networks and how they work. Okay, that's the last minute stuff before we get lost in YouTube, because who knows, it's so fun. We might be in there for a while. Any of you who have children have seen YouTube.com. Any of you who really are living in America have seen YouTube.com, I'm guessing. I have up here Sam from the Fort Vancouver Library in Washington. And I have Sam as an example because, to me, one of the barriers in my thinking about using videos for libraries is that there's a lot of gear and expertise and setup, right? Like, I don't know anything about lighting or giant video cameras or those big microphones with the padding around them, but you don't need all of that to get started. You really don't. Sam does 1-minute book reviews. He started filming them with his own camera or the camera in his cell phone. He didn't have a tripod at first. He balanced his camera on library books until it was the right height. And then he stood in front of it with light around him in a well-lit spot in the library and filmed it for 1 minute. And then he used the free editing software that came with his Windows computer to chop off the front end and the back end and clean it up. That's all Sam did. It didn't cost anything. And he's made a lot of these, and they're really popular. He also records staff in the library and patrons, and that was his original idea, to have patrons talking about books and staff. But, of course, we all know it can be hard to get people to sign up for that kind of thing. So a lot of these are just Sam talking about books. But he's a pretty charming guy, so I guess that's okay. I'm going to click on this, but I'm not going to play the whole video because I think it won't come through very well. I wanted to go clear into it. Oh, here we go. Sorry, everyone. I clicked the wrong button. Okay. So here he's starting. And you can see that 6,000 people have looked at Sam's 1-minute review of this Murakami book. 6,000 people. I know that in libraries we love to set up those displays, right? And there's a little sign that said, Marianne Harlow recommends Murakami's newest book. I think that's awesome, and I love those displays, and I always stop and look at them. I'm not sure that 6,000 people are going to stop and pick up that book. What's that? I know I stopped it, sorry. I'm not playing the video because I'm concerned the quality won't come through on the sharing, so I don't want to scum up the work. But it is truly 1 minute long, and 6,000 people have watched it. Again, you can see that you can make this play nicely with your blog or a web page. You can embed this video in a web page with 2 clicks. That's pretty easy. You can plop it into your Myspace with 1 click, plop it into your Facebook with 1 click, or plop it into your social bookmarking with 1 click. So all those tools you've already set up and get on the bus are going to work for you here. People have rated this 4.5 stars. That's pretty good, right? And here we get to the comments. YouTube commenters are even less mature than Myspace commenters, so I wouldn't take them too seriously. I don't know if there are any Heroes fans out there, but one person said, I love Murakami and you look like Sylar. So this is clearly, a high-level conversation. Very similar to what's happening with the Library of Congress and the Flickr users, right? But it is nice, and I think especially if there are teens in your library, they're really going to have fun with this and have fun commenting. So this is one way to use YouTube in a very low-tech fashion, a very inexpensive fashion. Some libraries have also used this as part of their instruction. This is the Colorado College Pet Library, and I saw these librarians talking about their YouTube channel at a conference recently. They started videotaping students talking about how they used the library, how they researched. And they were playing these videos in instruction sessions. So when people would come in to learn about the library, instead of the librarian saying everything, they would play a short video of a student saying, "Oh, I love JSTOR database. That's where I found all the best articles. That's where I always start." And they thought that might resonate more with their other patrons. And they were initially not planning to use YouTube. They were just planning to store them at the library and show them in class. But YouTube turned out to be the easiest place to store them. And then other people started watching them and using them, and students would tell their friends about them. So I would really recommend it, I guess. They had a great experience with it. Again, this is pretty low production. They sat the students in one spot. They had trouble keeping some of them still, which makes sense. And they lit it well, and then they put a camera on a tripod and filmed. There was nothing too serious. They did not go out and invest in a $3,000 camera for this project. That was not an option available to them. You can see that we can contact the Tut librarian, who claims to be 29. I like their style. And send them messages or share the channel. Embed the whole channel on your webpage. So if they wanted to at Colorado College, they could have a channel where people could see all of their videos right on their homepage. These are just some ideas. I think the ideas for YouTube are endless. A lot of libraries have used it to publicize their summer reading programs. And there's a link on the Get on the Bus page to the summer reading program from Denver Public Library that is so fun. I really encourage you to watch it. They have this kitty mascot that quits his day job scooping asphalt into, what do you call those? Holes in the potholes. Yeah, he's filling potholes and quits his job and spends the summer at the library, and it's pretty fun. So that was obviously a bigger production. They had to have some guy dressed up as a cat and lots of music over it. Some libraries are using it for that. A lot of libraries use it if authors come to visit. So if you have an author visit coming up, consider YouTube. I know that N. Scott Momaday is coming to one of the county libraries soon. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to drive up there, but I would probably watch it if it was on YouTube. I've seen a lot of good videos of Nancy Pearl interviewing authors on YouTube, which is another fun use. I've threatened to interview our dean here at UW about the progress on the construction project, but I figure she has more important projects going on right now, so we might save that for after the building is completed. So those are just some ideas, and I would encourage you to play around. If you just do keyword searches for library summer reading, I'm sure you'll find a billion YouTube videos. So play around and get ideas and put together some requests for funding. I think that there are a lot of them that have library pets. So you can see the library hamster and singing a song or being interviewed or have closed captions underneath. If you have Windows or Macs, they all come with some form of free editing software for videos. It may not be the creme de la creme, but go ahead and get started and try, and then you'll have a better argument for, hey, we could use some money for this equipment. Look at the videos I made. 5,000 people watched them, but I think 10,000 might if it wasn't such a crappy video. So that's one way to think about it. I was just reading this morning online from this technology evangelist who was talking about his motto, don't worry, be crappy. In the internet age, just throw it out there and try, and people will tell you what you're doing wrong, and you can make changes to all of this on the fly. There's no outside investment other than time, and because you've got that social network and users talking to you and commenting, you're going to learn right away what you're doing wrong, and you can make adjustments. So those are the basics. That's a lot of tools. I'm going to read your homework. Everyone make a YouTube video with good lighting and professional actors. No, I'm kidding. There's two options for homework. Option A is to create a free account in Flickr and take some digital photos in your library. Upload them to your Flickr account and tag at least one of the images, WY on the bus, the same tag you used last week with Kaiza, and make it public. Explore tags on Flickr and think about how Flickr is different than other photo sharing sites you've used, if you have. And take the Flickr tour. To get credit for your homework, leave a comment on the Get on the Bus page with a link to your Flickr image, along with any of your comments and observations. So that's option A, Flickr. Option B is a little more open. For option B, you'll find other libraries on Facebook, Myspace, or YouTube. Observe how they're using the space, maybe friend them, or maybe create your own profile, and write about your experience in your Get on the Bus blog. To get credit for this homework, leave a comment below with a link to your blog entry about social networking. And I think that if you are using your blog to talk about what you found, it would be great to go ahead and use those embed codes. Go ahead and embed a Flickr photo on your blog entry. Go ahead and embed the best YouTube video you found on your blog entry so that we can all watch it and enjoy it as well. So those are your homework options. Jamie, I think we can open it up for questions.
Okay.
All conference participants are unmuted. To mute your participants, press 7-7.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Cass? I know there are questions out there on social networking. No questions. Oh, this is just sad, people. That's okay. If you do think of a question, feel free to email either Cass directly or to email getonthebus@will.state.wy.us, and Cass or somebody, one of the presenters, will get back to you. I think this presentation was fantastic, but I really think Cass hit it right on the head, nail on the head, when she said you have to get out there and you have to play, and then you'll realize that it's next week because you've been watching too many kitties, doing fun stuff on YouTube. So, okay, are there any last questions?
Great presentation.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and let you go this week. Don't forget to tell your compatriots who couldn't be with you live that the archive will be up later this afternoon. Don't forget to join us for RSS next week. Don't forget to do your homework. And I'd love to give out more prizes. So the more people doing homework, the more prizes I'll give out. Have a great day.